Faiza wonderfully introduced me. I'm the founder of a company called Xplorient, and we're a relatively new company, a startup, so to speak. But I suppose what we'll be focusing on is developing work experience simulators with the aim of making work experience more inclusive and accessible. So through the presentation, I will take you through really an introduction to what we're doing and go into a bit more detail about the XR work experience simulators that we're aiming to develop. And then there'll be time for questions and answers. So really the aim of the talk today is to help you all gain an understanding of why we want to kind of solve this problem of helping young people, especially from underrepresented groups, for example, those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, be able to explore more jobs and careers, throughout the curriculum, so that they can have, make more informed career decisions going forwards. And as you're aware, there's a number of ways that you can get work experience. You yourselves may have done some work experience, even like a job when you were a teenager, so to speak, and you got insight into working, earning money. So work experience can consist of going on site as an employer. I recall as a 16-year-old, my mum kindly organised some work experience in a primary school and also in a hospital. And likewise, you have done work experience yourself. Also, people have the opportunity now to do virtual work experiences. So they can sit at a laptop, desktop, etc., and, for example, watch pre-recorded videos, or they could potentially participate in live sessions with employers, and they set them tasks across half a day or a day or so. And there's also a range of other experiences. You've got the 360-degree video type VR experiences. And I know the other day when I was at the National Careers Conference, I was speaking to a gentleman who was piloting the kind of 360 degrees videos for their school students. So that was in the biomedical sciences sector, because they're finding it hard to recruit for that specific sector. So, for example, the videos would provide a snapshot of what it was like to work in the lab, or in various different professions. And what my company aim to build are VR experiences, not necessarily 360-degree videos, but the more interactive type, when you also have the headset. So I'll go into a bit more detail later about that. And so in terms of benefits of work experience, there's a myriad that you would have experienced yourself, and obviously research will sort of allude to that. So it helps us all gain practical insights into various fields. It helps us make more informed decisions about our future, because many of us, for whatever reason, or not necessarily many of us, some of us from a young age may have a profession that they really want to go into, whether it's influenced by your parents, your peers, or what you watch on TV or social media. And so it's useful to be able to understand whether your interests kind of align with the practical side. So by having that experience, you can really get an understanding of your interests and your strengths, and even start to build professional networks in your desired kind of industry. And I suppose one of those benefits is the fact that if you decide to invest that time early and to get a sense of what path or jobs you may want to pursue earlier in life, then further down the road that can alleviate problems of potentially studying a degree that maybe is not something that you wish to continue. You've got student loans, you've got debts, or there's just generally potentially a mismatch of career paths because you didn't really understand the real day-to-day task and what the job entailed. And so I'm just going to dig a bit deeper into the problem so you can see it, and it's just a snapshot. And as I said, there can be a myriad of disadvantages if you just start a job or career and you didn't really potentially appreciate what it entailed. So debt, financial strain, mental health issues in terms of your well-being if it's a mismatch, and even for the employer, potential of high employee turnover, loss of productivity, and redundancy in the terms that your skills, because potentially the job or your career you went into, due to, for example, like AI and other emerging technologies, those skills have become redundant, and you may have to upskill and retrain. And as you can see here in this screenshot, this seems like a
Rachel,
wonderful, work experience program potentially. But as you can see, this University College London offers 12 placements. And just think about how many students there are across the country. And it's obviously the very few. I don't know what their selection process is, but there's really not a lot of places. And also it's confined to 5 days in July as well. So I say that echoes a lot of work experience programs, which are potentially excellent, but only such a chosen few can participate in it at a fixed time during the year. And
Rachel,
so that's one of the issues that we want to address. So the aim is to use extended reality technologies to create immersive work experience simulators, where people can trial different jobs, carry out work experience. And so essentially it will empower young people to explore different job roles and make more informed career decisions. And when I was at the conference the other day, Unifrog were there. Some of you may be very familiar with Unifrog. They have sort of a platform which helps students, apply for universities, do work placements, etc. And their data showed that students from lower socioeconomic groups are more likely to complete work experience in schools and less likely to complete work experience placements in other fields such as finance, architecture, and sport. And obviously there's nothing wrong with doing a work experience placement in school, but it's just obviously showing or demonstrating that access to opportunity isn't equal across society in terms of gaining that work experience. And here is just a few points from a survey that was conducted, the Youth Voice Census, was conducted in 2023 of just over 4,000 young people. But I suppose you have to be aware it's quite a small cohort compared to how many 11 to 30-year-olds are in the country. So obviously we can't take it as fact, but it gives us a bit of an insight. But what they found was that during the past 6 years, as you know, we had quite a monumental situation with the pandemic. And a lot of young people are saying that the biggest barriers to work is due to, the experience differs based on their gender, ethnicity, and gender identity. They found across different, secondary schools, that the support for finding work experience varied quite considerably. And also it seemed that some young people are concerned about their long-term prospects, and many students are making choices on short-term planning and what they can get access to at the time and what they can afford, which you can understand.
Rachel, can you hear us now? Can you hear me, Rachel?
Yes.
Okay, so we've been having some issues with the screen. So your screen hasn't moved for us, and it looks like you couldn't hear me earlier.
Right.
So it looks like a connection issue perhaps, but
okay.
I think this is where were we? We didn't see on the slide. So can you tell me where we are? Further on from here, or?
Yeah, a bit further on than that. But you obviously I cut out, didn't I? Okay, next slide. Yeah. Okay, I'll start from here.
Okay,
because I don't
excellent.
know. Did my voice cut out or?
I think at some point along, so this is probably a good point.
Okay,
for the problem to be solved.
All
okay,
right.
So
my sincere apologies, everyone. So I'll try and keep this as quick. So what I was saying is that there's a problem that we need to solve in terms of access to work experience. Sometimes, quite a lot of careers, it's very limited in terms of the number of students that are allowed on these work experience programs. And also they're usually at set weeks across the year, which is not always convenient for people. And usually it's also very dependent on the geographical location. of where you are, as to whether you can access these opportunities, definitely in person. And yeah, next slide, please. And then I talked about the research from Unifrog, and their data showed that students from lower socioeconomic groups are more likely to complete work experience in schools compared to fields such as finance, architecture, and sport. And there's nothing wrong with completing work experience in schools. But I think what potentially that is showing is that students are just going for work experience that's easier, more accessible, because those other fields like finance aren't as easy to get into to do those work experience placements. So next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a survey conducted by the Youth Voice Census, and it confirms, although it's only just over 4,000 students, so it's really a snapshot. So it's not really a large cohort, but it does obviously show with the research that they've done that the biggest barriers to work experience that the people that completed the survey found was that disparities were based on gender, ethnicity, and gender identity. And they found that access to work experience or being helped to find work experience varied across the type of schools that students attended, and the support from schools, teachers, or family members varied widely. And so there was also a general sense, unfortunately, that a lot of young people are planning for the short term and not thinking long term, just because they're going for things that are accessible and what they can afford, which you can understand, and also based on where they live as to what work experience programs they can apply to. And next slide, please. And so in terms of what we want to develop, we touched upon earlier, virtual reality simulators where students can put on a headset or even access a desktop, and they can do work experience anytime, anywhere for a multitude of professions. So at this time, my company is in the kind of research and planning stage and aiming to secure funding, identify and develop our team, and then have a range of virtuality simulator prototypes ready later in the year. Next step, please. And so just a little bit about me, because I went straight into what Xplorient are doing in terms of the work experience element, but I'm Rachel Garwood, the founder of Xplorient. And as Faisal had said, I'm a University of Leeds graduate, and I've worked in a myriad of industry, and I have expertise in different fields. So, business management, bid management, product management, and also careers mentoring, so helping young people, young professionals as well, kind of, I suppose, excel in their careers, but also help them identify, what jobs and careers they may want to pursue. And so I suppose Xplorient was also born out of a passion in terms of when I was younger, the careers advice way back when, I would say is not as great as it is now. And so although it's improved a lot, I really believe in the power of work experience to enable people to, I suppose, try before they buy, and to really get as much experience as possible, especially in this change, as I said, of emerging technologies where jobs will, I suppose, be made redundant due to, for example, like AI and other tech that is on the horizon. So I really see the importance of upskilling, and not just, I suppose, when young students, whereby maybe they're going to be going to profession for the first time, but even those who are in the middle of career or later in their career, and are thinking what new skills can they learn, because their jobs may be automated and they may be made redundant. Next slide, please. And then also a bit about my company. So there's 3 main products and services that we're providing. So one that I'm focusing on today, and it's the work experience simulators. And so really also it's aimed at careers advisors and employability coaches, so that they we get their buy-in, and then they can help support young people in exploring jobs and careers, and also work experience programs. We've also got a business partnership with a Spanish company called Veru, and they have an amazing virtual reality as a service platform. It's award-winning, and this platform enables organizations in Unity, using Unity 3D software, to create, manage, and deploy content to headsets and desktops. So, for example, I can be here, you can be wherever you are, and we can be in the same virtual space with our headsets and participate in interactive tasks together in real time. And then thirdly, the Xplorient Expanse Work Marketplace, which was launched a few weeks ago. And it's a marketplace that connects individuals such as freelancers with organizations such as universities to help them hire experts. It could be project managers, extended reality developers, a whole myriad of people to help them develop XR projects. And those who may be familiar with Upwork or Freelancer, it's a similar platform to that. Next slide, please. And so just a bit about introduction to the team, obviously myself, and at the moment I'm working with contractors, but in time when we secure funding, we'll have permanent staff. And as you can see, there will be a range of professionals that will be on board to help us with building, marketing and selling these virtual reality solutions into, I suppose, the marketplace and impacting young people to help them make more informed decisions about the careers they want to pursue. Next slide, please. And yes, these next slides will help you give you a bit more of a flavour and grounding into an example of a type of user. So a user persona, and this is a fictional type person, Emma Davis, age 17 in Manchester. She's a year 12 A-level student at a local high school. And you can see she has a range of interests in technology, science, social media, and playing video games. And her aim is to explore various career paths before making a decision, before going to university. And she'd like to gain some practical experience that can enhance her CV, and so she can feel a bit more confident about her career choice going forwards. Next slide. And this is just a bit more detail and a comparison between the 360-degree videos, which I mentioned earlier, and virtual reality. So initially, when we were looking at exploring building, VR work experience simulators, I thought it could be like a video. You can navigate through a headset set in an immersive environment, and as you can see on the left-hand side, what the kind of specifications, or what you can do with 360-degree videos if you're not familiar with it. So as you can see, the camera captures a real-world environment, and it kind of knits together a 360-degree image around you. It can be accessed on like a wearable such a VR headset, but also, for example, YouTube, you can see 360-degree videos, and with your mouse you can kind of navigate around the scene, and you can see the complete surroundings of where you are in that video. And yeah, it's sort of passive viewing. You can't really necessarily interact, so maybe you can put kind of like overlay text, etc. But yes, it is quite passive, and you're limited in terms of to a perspective 3 degrees of freedom. Whereas in virtual reality, obviously when you build that in Unity, etc., Unreal, or whatever games engine you want to use, it's computer environment digitally created, and it's more immersive, it's interactive. For example, with your hand controls, you can pick things up, interact with screens, point, click, etc. It's more active in its engagement, and it's a bit more, I wouldn't say, let's say, realistic, but you feel like you are, definitely it's more interactive. Next slide, please. And so just goes into a bit more detail about the proposed solution, the VR simulators. So the vision is for it to offer a wide range of simulated career paths that you can explore in an immersive and interactive way. But not just that, you will be able to, as well as explore career paths, participate in different tasks, even in games. So you can learn the kind of intricacies of different jobs and careers. You can provide practical work experience, and it can be included on your CV. And what I think is really important, for example, is say if there's an 11-year-old participating in one of these simulators for a job that exists, in their current time, by the time they enter the workforce, that may no longer exist in terms of AI has automated it, or for whatever reason there isn't really a need for it. And so also the vision is to use artificial intelligence to help identify and predict future jobs and careers, so that the program not only, for example, can show jobs that exist today, but ones in the future. And so prepare individuals who do the simulator to develop and cultivate and identify the potential skills they may need, say, 7 or 8 years down the line. And it will use existing data sources from, a myriad of places, and then, obviously create that environment. And also there'll be, mentorship and feedback integrated into the system, where, it could be potentially through AI as well. And then, it really helps you develop practical skills and help you gain confidence in your chosen career path through simulated tasks and challenges. And what I say is one of the key kind of USPs is that it will be available anytime and anywhere. So providing flexible access to career exploration and work experience opportunities. Next slide, please. And here, these are just kind of mock-ups, so to speak. I would say the AI generated, so this give you a sense of what it potentially could look like through a headset. So on the left-hand side, there's, various simulations, and then they put a stethoscope on him. So, for example, you could be working from home, doing tasks as well. Could be working, in a hospital, just doing tasks in a simulated environment. As you can see, the lady on the left-hand side is in some kind of warehouse, and she could be completing tasks associated with logistics, inventory, etc. Next slide, please. And some more mock-ups again, a kind of manufacturing engineering environment, and just sort of learning about, what could potentially go on there in the factory. It could be learning about the components in a machine, how to service it, etc. Looking at the data, analyzing the data in it. On the right-hand side, it could be someone who's interested in becoming an astronaut, exploring space, and then they can just do various tasks to learn about that field, and as I say, do work experience as well. Next slide, please. It's similarly, again, another mock-up. It could be in the healthcare profession, engineering profession, etc. And they can, do, as I said, do various tasks as well. Next slide. And here, just as a mention about the business partner, Veru, that I mentioned before, in Spain, and their real-time virtual environment, whereby people can navigate the same space. So that's one of the key components of the proposed simulators, the fact that it's collaborative, it's multi-user, because obviously in the workplace, you don't work in isolation, you work with other colleagues. There are tasks you will work on by yourself, but generally in most fields, you're conversing with your colleagues, you're working together, and that's a really important skill to develop and cultivate, working within a team. So yes, you can go in and be in that same environment. And so some of the simulators will be deployed to the platform. Yeah, that's software that we will be using. But we also aim to build a learning management system where these simulators will also be available. Next slide. And really, that's it from me. So obviously that was an overview about the problem that we aim to solve, about limited access to work experience, especially for underrepresented groups, in the UK and across the world. And I've given you an outline of the types of simulators. I've not necessarily gone into details about the types of professions, But the professions really that we'll be focusing on are the ones that are really hard to gain access to. So for example, we talked about people being able to easily get work experience in schools, but for example, someone may want to be an architect, they may want to be an engineer, and so these simulators, especially for those work experience programs that are not very ubiquitous, they will be able to explore a career, job, work experience anytime, anywhere. And so really that's it from me. So thank you for your patience. I know there's been a lot of technical hiccups, but you've got a copy of the slides as well that you can go through at your leisure. And you can email me if you want to ask more questions. I'll answer questions today. There's our main website, Xplorient.com, and then the Excel Web Marketplace, Xplorient Expanse. And then you've got, our social media handles at Xplorient, and we're on sort of 5 socials. So please, if you have any questions, I think I've seen some in the chat. I can start with those, which is absolutely fine. So let's have a look. So I'm looking at the question, do I already have data fed for career options in my system? If someone has to get a demo of this, how is it possible? I'm into career consulting, excited to know more about it. That's wonderful, Yash, that you're excited to know more about it. And at the moment, it's more of a vision. I've done initial workshops with career consultants like yourself. I was with a seminar the other day to really gauge how we can get it into kind of schools, educational institutions. And one of those things, I know that schools had issues with budgets in terms of buying the software. But in terms of demoing it, it's not available for demo yet because we're still, building the actual, job simulators. But as I said, by the end of the year, we want to get prototypes out. So when that's ready, if you sign up to the mailing list, you will be one of the first to know when they're available to be demoed. Next question. Any of these products and services from you or your partners already available to University of London? Please. No, they're not, unfortunately, but sign up to the mailing list, as I said, and you'll be the first to know when they'll be available. But any more questions? Okay, see, someone's typing.
Rachel, I have a question about sort of your approach. And so I see the merit in terms of doing virtual reality over 360 recording. It's just, do you have any plans to sort of examine or evaluate whether that is more effective in terms of giving people insights over a 360 video recording?
Yeah, so I did think about this the other day because in terms of research, I don't think, there's no research comparing necessarily 360-degree videos to virtual reality in a sense of having a cohort of students and, for example, following them. Say you have a cohort of students that don't do VR video experience or virtual reality simulators, and compare them with a cohort that did, and then tracking them through their career and seeing in terms of trying to ascertain whether there was value. So I know this is just hypothetically speaking. You've got 5 students that did, the video work experience, 5 students that did the VR, and they all did, they explored the same profession. So I don't know, say architecture, education, etc. And then you've got those that just didn't do any VR work experience. And then you could track, I suppose you'd have to have metrics to measure, positive, negative elements, and to see whether they were successful in, say, securing their first job compared to other ways. But yes, I'd have to, I think, do those trials myself if I'm answering your questions correctly.
Yeah, so I think that's a sort of a longer term type of sort of evaluation. Yeah. I guess what in the meantime, are there sort of more sort of straightforward analyses that you could do perhaps with experts? So let's say you're trying to sort of I don't know, sort of some kind of construction sort of work experience. So what you do is you do the video 360 recording, and then you do the sort of you have the VR version, and then you get the people who are working in that industry to evaluate how how accurate or sort of reflective that is of their general sort of workday sort of experiences. So that kind of thing could be one way, and then another, of course, could be sort of from what the students be. The students will not know, right? This is what you're providing them with, the insights, and so it's up to the sort of professionals working in that area who might be able to sort of validate whether or not your approach is a good representation of their profession.
Absolutely. So I'll just add to that, Faiz, you're completely correct, because there's no point working in isolation. I haven't, if you take the construction example, and there's no one in construction on the team.
Yeah.
So yes, there has to be, that's one of the challenges, if I'm honest, because I'm going to have to set up different, I suppose, boards of experts so that they can we can help co-create that software for that specific profession, but also validate and test it. So yes, that is absolutely a solution for all the different professions. So that's something that's in the pipeline, and yeah, that would be a great way to sort of measure how effective or realistic that simulation is. But also, I'd like to measure how impactful or beneficial it is to students, in their job. So, for example, as I said, they may do the construction simulator, and someone doesn't do the construction simulator. They may do a work experience in person. They may do, virtual work experience where watch videos online, and someone may not just do work experience at all, and they just fall into construction. So, as you said, that's longer term evaluation to measure, the sort of benefits and kind of track and compare whether, doing those kind of tasters or exploratory simulators did contribute to increasing their well-being, or increasing their job fulfillment, their job satisfaction, contributing to their salary or job prospects, etc. So yeah, that's definitely a lot of research needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so someone said, could you collaborate?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you got the question.
Absolutely. I need lots of people to help to work on these projects, whether it's students, Unity developer, expert. So yes, I'm welcome to collaborations. I'm looking for interns as well. So yeah, because that's something I think it wasn't on the slide. It should have been, but the types of partnerships that I'm looking for, just in terms of industry, employers, businesses, SMEs, universities, students, because I know that's one way. A lot of I know there's a university in Arizona, across the world, even here, that are using students on their courses to help create content for their existing courses. So, for example, you take dentistry, you've got students helping to create the course content in Unity, and it's obviously helping them, teach other students on their cohort or across other years. So yeah, that's definitely all about collaborations, really.
Excellent, thank you, Rachel. Okay, any more questions before we start to wrap things up? See if anybody's typing. Otherwise, I guess now will be a timely finish. So we're back on track. Yes, excellent. So thank you. Thanks, Rachel, for persevering through all of those technical issues as well. Sort of it's worth it in the end to hear all about your sort of exciting plans. Okay, and thanks everyone for sitting through as well, and for all your questions.